the Themes to Be Seen podcast, everybody. Today's movie from 2001, Legally Blonde, starring Reese Witherspoon, Selma Blair, Luke Wilson, Ali Larder, who, up or down?
Bruiser the Chihuahua.
Bruiser the Chihuahua, yeah. Who we learned just recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostic.
And this is the Themes to Be Seen podcast. Okay, today's movie, we're having a little recording issue.
I can't stop laughing.
Tara has a case of the giggles.
Coffee giggles.
She's all jittery and wired. Legally Blonde from 2001.
Yeah, and so it's 2019, and this was my first time ever seeing this movie.
I told her she'd like it, and she's like, eh.
I've always liked Reese Witherspoon, but she's made some corny romantic comedies, and so I thought this would just be like one of those really silly movies, and I ended up loving it. This movie had so much more to say, and yeah.
She has made the same movie a few times.
Mm-hmm.
She's recently coming out with a movie, and I forget the name of it, but I saw the trailer somewhere. It was like an ad on YouTube or something, and it was just Sweet Home Alabama again.
Well, I think they're working on Legally Blonde Part 3 right now, too.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen the second one?
No.
Oh, good, because that is not as good as this. The diminishing returns by far.
Mm-hmm.
Not good. They tried to do too much.
Oh.
It went from this movie that we're talking about, and you'll all see why we're doing this. When we first started kind of teasing this one on like the Facebook page and stuff, I'm sure people who have listened to it kind of scratch their temple with why Legally Blonde.
Uh-huh.
But there is a reason, trust us.
So, this movie was based on the novel by Amanda Brown. It was based on her actual experiences. I think she had gone to Yale.
She went to Yale.
Yeah.
Or Stanford.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't remember.
We're such great note takers.
Should have put that in the notes. But she didn't go to Harvard, as in this film.
No.
But she is blonde, and she did have a problem in her Ivy League school because she is blonde and likes to dress up, and so this is actually a semi-autobiographical for her.
Mm-hmm. And so it was based on her novel, but it was written by the screenwriters of 10 Things I Hate About You, which I think is why I ended up really loving this movie, because I loved that movie.
It has this little Barbie style, not Barbie as in
fluffy.
Yeah, not Barbie as in the doll, Barbie as in barbed wire, barbed style of speaking, like these little sticks, these little.
It's way more witty than you would expect it to be.
Sharp-tongued.
Yeah.
Comebacks and things.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what a lot of people don't know, the screenwriters who had gotten a hold of this read the books and then realized that it would be a good way to put out to the masses some of the ideals of late wave feminism. At the point in 2001, we would be in the third wave of empowerment feminism, self-empowerment feminism. So they added a lot of little things way under the surface that I'm going to be going over on this episode that are adjunct themes of male involvement in feminism. The good, the bad, and the ugly of it. Mm-hmm. So,
which you know way more about than I do.
I, in college, wrote a 25-page dissertation on male involvement in feminism. It was difficult. It took me like 4 weeks, and I still only got a B.
Oh, no!
But I also used it to apply to the Philosophers Association of America.
I wish I could read it, but he realized recently it was water ruined by a leak in his roof.
Yeah, I had a leak in the roof, and the box was just in the corner of the room. I had a lot of like my old college material in there, and it was in this box that was under the hole in my roof, and it got ruined. So bummer, but I still remembered some, and I remembered some names and some ideas. So that's what I'm gonna use for this.
We would like keep pausing the movie, and you would start telling me about the themes and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, yeah, Legally Blonde, dissected by two people who are close to being legally blind, probably.
Oh.
Yeah.
Legally blind. I am very blonde. My hair is of a lighter, a fairer tone.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I'm a natural blonde. Mine was more of the darker blonde, but now it is pink.
Mine is bright blonde.
And my first note here is think pink, because
everything
so much in this movie is pink.
There is a theme of pink in this film, actually. Pink.
The opening shot, there's so much pink, and the opening shot of Elle Woods is her blonde hair being brushed from the backside.
Which we learned was not actually Reese Witherspoon in this shot. It was a stunt woman. The easiest stunt ever. Just brush your hair. But she was working on another film in London, I think it said.
Mm-hmm.
And she was on her way to the set, and they had this stunt woman brushing her hair. The opening is it cuts back and forth between our main character. Her name is Elle Woods. Mm-hmm. She's brushing her hair. She's shaving her legs. She's doing her makeup. And it cuts back and forth between her doing that and this card being carried through a sorority house.
And it was shot at Caltech in Pasadena, California, and there's just lots of bright colors, of blonde hair, platinum blonde hair,
can we talk
grow
about
zones with the sororities and the fraternities.
The shot of the camera tracking this card, because the card stays mid-frame the whole time. So even when like it's being handed to somebody and they're doing something ridiculous with it, the card stays main frame or stays center frame, and the camera just tracks in like one direction following it. It's actually a better directed shot than you would expect from a movie.
It's one of those things where like the scenery looks nice and you're like, oh wow, it looks like it'd be fun to be there, but then I wouldn't fit in there. So it's just kind of like this outsiders look at it like, oh, that all looks nice and happy and like fluffy, but
I wouldn't fit into the sorority house either. Why would I?
No, but they show like fraternity stuff.
I'd fit in a fraternity house.
Oh God, I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, around college time. Oh yeah. Oh, wouldn't have been funny. I'd have got in trouble in fraternities.
And so there's this like really upbeat pop song about the perfect day.
Yeah.
And also the composer for this movie worked on the movie Election, which was a previous Reese Witherspoon movie with her and Matthew Broderick. That's a great movie.
Election is a great movie.
Dark comedy. It's a lot darker than you would expect.
I have my issues with it. But that's because I don't get along with that director.
Oh, it was directed by Alexander.
Yeah.
He made Sideways.
Yeah. Well, Sideways I like. I really like Sideways.
Yeah.
But I feel like I like Sideways because of Paul Giamatti.
The whole cast is great. That Sideways is one of the rare instances where the movie is better than the book.
Yes, I would totally agree. The book is a good read if you're trying to fall asleep.
Yeah.
He's a little long-winded on some stuff.
That's one of those stories that you just need to see it be brought to life, and I don't know, I just love that movie so much. But what are your issues with that director?
He reminds me a lot of, and actually shoots everything quite similar to, that other director that I don't like. Just recently did Isle of Dogs. What's his name?
Oh, yeah. So Matt is not a Wes Anderson
I don't
fan.
like Wes Anderson at all. Like, his movies are so, like, they're supposed to be these hyper intellectual films, and they just come off as pretentious.
There's a lot of like, yeah, that inside humor. But
if you're not,
I don't know, I like that quirky stuff. He has like his own quirky little world. I don't like all his movies, but the ones I do like, I really love.
And Election is quite similar to a Wes Anderson film. And the fact that if you're not one of these actors' friends or the director's friend, there's some jokes in the movie you're just not going to get. There's some humor that's not going to appeal to you because you're not there. You don't know.
Yeah.
We get to oh yeah, the card gets to her.
Mhm. We see Bruiser.
For the first time.
Chihuahua, shout out.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh. Shedding a tear.
she gets her card under the door, and then we cut to her and her friends. One of these friends, the actress, I didn't even look up the actress's name because she's almost non-consequential. But the other thing you all may have seen her in is Waiting. But before that, if you're in your early, mid-30s, and you watched a science program quite similar to Bill Nye. It was called Beekman's World.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was Beekman's lab assistant.
Yeah. Oh, man. And for Christmas one year, I got those Beekman crystals that you would, like, put underwater and watch them grow.
Yeah.
Ah, good time.
She's also, like, the angry waitress in Waiting that shows her bush.
I forgot all about that movie.
I mean, I like that movie because I've always liked Ryan Reynolds. I've always thought Ryan Reynolds was either funny or good at action, and like way before Deadpool's and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Waiting is probably the movie where I first saw Ryan Reynolds and was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch as much as I can with him. Like, if something new comes out, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna watch that movie. The other friend is an absolute nobody. I think the research. She's a jazz musician now.
Yeah.
She's been in a jazz big band
I
now.
believe so, yeah.
Which is really interesting considering her character. We'll touch on her character every so often because these aren't super important. Her friends here aren't important to the story, but they have a couple of just scene chewing moments. Like, they just chew the scenery once or twice in this movie completely.
Yeah, so I was always told by people, like, Matt would tell me, oh, you would love this movie, because I love movies like Election and Clueless and Private Benjamin and stuff like that, and I don't know, I guess I just thought maybe this would be very stereotypical and stuff, but then we get to that first scene where she's trying on the dresses and that saleswoman tries to, like, sell her a dress that isn't authentic, and you see like, right off the bat we see that this is not a stupid character.
Right.
I really appreciated that.
But that is a thing. Like, the movie, this is another instance of the movie's marketing letting it down. Where they marketed it as this dumb, stereotypical, somebody wrote a comedy and they're going to put it out sometime in spring so that, because people want to go out and see comedies that time of year, and it didn't get really the, what am I looking for? The right touch in its marketing. They didn't show what it was actually about. They just showed her and pink stuff and going to law school.
And the famous line, like, it's hard.
Yeah, that totally a trailer line. But it wasn't marketed right. So to people like you you and I, who actually care about what we're watching.
Yeah, because when I remember when it first came out in the previews, and it just didn't appeal to me at all. I just thought, oh, it's just going to be another, like, cheesy Reese Witherspoon, like, romantic comedy.
When it came out on home video,
Home video.
I don't think a lot of people don't know my story. We were planning on doing an intro episode. We never did. But part of my backstory in movies is that my mom would rent 20, 25 movies, and we would probably we would just sit there and watch movies. We didn't have cable. Couldn't afford cable when I was really young, and we would do laundry or clean the house or whatever. But we would do as much as we could right on the living room floor, and we would just knock out movie after movie after movie. And this is one of the movies. And just since then, anytime she brought a movie home, I would watch it with her. This was that instance where she brought this home, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I got this." And she had put it in, and I kind of rolled my eyes. All right, fine, I'll see how long I can sit through this. And then it ended up getting to the end, and I was like, "Well, shit, that was different."
It is a really fun movie, and it has a great pace. There's likable characters and actors in it.
And the fact that
it's
there
not
is a depth.
Stupid, yeah.
There is a depth. And I'm going to be getting into the depth, and you guys are going to be like, "Whoa, you said there was a depth, not a tread." Okay. The first scene after the card is her and her friends in the little commons square talking about why she got the card in the first place. She thinks her boyfriend, would you write the boyfriend's name? Warner is going to propose. His grandma just flew in from Connecticut. They spent some time together, and they have this big date tonight. He's been hyping this date up to her. So her and her friends are just adamant that he's going to propose at this date.
So he's been hyping up this breakup date.
Yeah.
How messed up is that?
Hey, it's for her. It's messed up. Mm-hmm. For us, it's hilarious. It's funny. It's a good scene.
It is. So yeah, we find, and she's, all excited about this, and then this is where we go to that
dress shop.
Shopping scene, and
it's like a fancy boutique.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at Rodeo or something.
And the saleswoman is like, "I love a dumb blonde with daddy's plastic." And
takes the tag off a discount dress and walks over and starts trying to sell it to her. Now this actress who played the store clerk has been in other stuff too. And we didn't do any research on that, but you're all gonna see her and be like, "Yeah, okay." Mm-hmm. She comes up, she tries selling Elle this dress. Oh, it's a one of a kind.
Mm-hmm. It's talking about the hemming, but
yeah.
Al is a fashion designer major.
Fashion marketing.
Something like that, yeah.
And she calls her out on it. You can't have this certain hem. She asks her a couple questions. Mm-hmm. And the store clerk is like, "Oh yeah, and then she calls her out. Mm-hmm. "Oh, well, you can't have this kind of hemline on rayon dresses or whatever. And I saw this on the rack last season."
Yeah.
Really, really hands it to her.
She's like, "You picked the wrong girl."
Yeah. Which is, it's a really good scene. We get to show that she isn't dumb.
She looks like, that typical, ditzy blonde, but she's not.
It's cool. It's a Clueless character turned on its head. Mm-hmm. Where we're rooting in Clueless, we're rooting for this girl who really isn't that bright, and in this, people think that she's not that bright, but she is very intelligent.
Yeah, and very kind, which I liked about the character too. She wasn't
she's nice, even
stuck up
worst,
or anything.
Even in some of the worst scenes of this movie, she is still
when
a
people
nice
are
character.
being mean to her, she's. I don't know. I really liked that about this movie too.
Because another theme of this movie is just staying consistent as a person.
Mm-hmm. She knows who she is.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's other people who are you sure? Mm-hmm. Really? And she doesn't fall into that at all.
So yeah, and then we get to a scene where we meet Warner.
Yes, her boyfriend shows up to the sorority house.
Yeah.
Everybody, all the other girls at the sorority house are like super hyped up for this. They think she's going to get engaged. He walks in. He's a fancy gentleman. He's got a very expensive haircut and a square jawline. It's the whole idea of an old money guy. Picks her up. They go out to somewhere that looks like a pretty swanky spot. Fancy food. And they get into this conversation where he talks about he needs to take his life more seriously. And he knows what he wants. He wants to be a senator by the time he's 35. A senator by the time he's 30, or something like that.
I think by the time he's 30.
By the time he's 30. And she's very supportive, and every time she's allowing him to go on with this, and she's very supportive. I support you in whatever. I can do whatever. And then he says, I think we should break up. And there's this.
Yeah, so I really liked the way that this scene was shot too, because it starts off from a distance and then it's zooming in and the camera never stops moving.
No.
Even when it's cutting between the two characters, it's still very slowly moving and it stops on that particular line.
Yeah, when he says, we should break up, it's like it's a slam on the dolly on that camera.
Yep.
So yeah, he says that she can't be taken seriously, is what it is. That's an actual line.
And he doesn't think of her as smart.
No. And it's obvious. He's actually kind of talking down to her this whole conversation.
Yeah.
He refers to her as a Marilyn and not a Jackie. Which, really, bro? Like the differences between Marilyn and Jackie Kennedy were had nothing to do with their exterior disposition. They were both intelligent women. They both were good at what they did. It's a false statement, is what it is.
Yep, just looking at the exterior.
Yep.
Not knowing anything about them. And this is where Al has this pretty hilarious emotional breakdown.
She's walking down the sidewalk and refusing to get in the car.
And she's
in the restaurant? Or when she's
both too, because I love when she's walking outside and she's like whimpering.
Yeah.
that was pretty good performance.
Yeah.
And she doesn't understand why she's not good enough for him, and she's like, I grew up across the street from Aaron Spelling.
Which actually Tori Spelling was originally auditioned for this. Which would have been bad.
Oh god,
She's not a good actress.
No.
Tori Spelling would have ruined the idea behind this movie. Whereas Reese Witherspoon, being blonde, but also being a very intelligent person.
Because she actually went to, what school
it was an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
And we saw it, but we didn't write it.
I think they did write it down.
It's probably later in our notes somewhere.
Yeah.
And then he convinces her to get in the car because he tells her that walking like this is going to ruin her.
Yes.
When he gets to the sorority house, she gets out of the car and goes to turn around and say something to him, and he's already driving away.
Yeah.
Doesn't even say goodbye. Nothing.
So she's distraught. She's holed up in her room.
We find out she's been in her room for a week.
A week.
Yeah.
Just eating chocolates and watching soap operas.
Yelling violently at soap operas.
Yeah.
And her friends suggest that they go do something that always makes them feel better, and it cuts directly to a manicure pedicure sign.
Yes. And this was, the manicure scene was actually the first scene shot for the movie. It was filmed on October 10th, 2000. Whew, that was a long time ago. I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, those were horrible times.
Yeah? I wasn't even in high school yet. I was still in middle school.
Shut up. I'm just going to go decay in the corner now.
Where's my Centrum Silver? She sees in a magazine that Warner's brother got married in this manicure pedicure place,
And she's there's this old lady just
oh my
sitting
god,
next
this
to
line.
her.
I forgot about this line.
And she's like, that's Warner's brother. And the woman's just
no,
like,
right. No. Yeah, she's talking to this lady like she knows the whole situation. And it's a very Rob Reiner's mom moment.
And that's the thing about her character, too, is she's just so open with everybody. Mm-hmm. She treats everyone as if she knows them. Oh, Elvis just moved.
He moved, and he's using the bottom of our studio table as a pillow. She's talking to this old lady about this whole situation as if she has any context whatsoever. Mm-hmm. She points out that the picture in the magazine. She says that's Warner's brother, and then she points out the woman he married, and she says, "This is what I have to be if Warner's going to take me seriously." And the lady's reply is, "What? Practically deformed?" It's one of the best lines of the whole movie because I don't know if this actress was. If the actress that plays the old lady, if she'd been in stuff maybe decades ago, mm-hmm. and she's just kind of making a cameo, or what the deal is.
Or it's like that classic like Rob Reiner or Martin Scorsese using their moms in little cameo scenes.
Right. And Rob Reiner's mom delivering one of the most famous mm-hmm. Romantic comedy lines ever. The "I'll have what she's having." Scorsese's mom hilariously making dinner in the middle of the night for Joe Pesci mm-hmm. and Ray Liotta. It could be that situation because this lady delivers that practically deformed so great.
Yeah, one of the best parts of the movie.
It really is. And her reply to that, Elle's reply to that is no, a law student. Mm-hmm. Because they weren't going to Stanford, or they weren't going to Harvard. I think she said they met at Stanford.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we cut to this scene between Elle and her parents, and the way this was shot reminded me a lot of the Winona Ryder black comedy Heathers.
It's very reminiscent of Heathers.
It's like this cold interaction between them, like.
And that's anytime you see parents in Heathers, there's this like disconnect.
Yeah, the camera is shooting
up at the dad.
At them, at both of them.
Like, it is. Because she's in the pool, and technically we're supposed to kind of sort of be getting like a point of view from her, mm-hmm. but it's shot almost directly at an upward angle at the parents.
Yeah, like showing them as the authoritative figures, but. It's like they don't take her seriously. They don't believe in her going to Harvard.
Yeah, they say that law school is for boring, ugly people. Mm-hmm. Is the exact line, and it would. Whoa. Oh, she would come back. Well, their concern is that she would come back from law school and now be boring and ugly. Mm-hmm. Meaning her outward social persona would have to change to adapt to her surroundings, and it's. Oh, my next note is from the counselor. So do you have anything?
Same here. No, yeah. I go right to the counselor scene.
The school counselor, who also has been famously with other blondes. She was in Sybil. She was a main character in the
TV show.
In the TV show, yeah, in the TV show Sybil. Mm-hmm. Also a famous blonde. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's concerned. This school counselor. She's concerned. Are you sure? You're a fashion marketing major. I don't know. You'd have to have really good grades. Elle has a 4.0.
Yeah, she would need to get at least a 175 on the LSATs.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a ridiculous number.
And so, Elle just has this confidence in herself. She's like, I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
Right. She says, I don't need backups. Because the counselor says, what are your backups? Mm-hmm. And she says, oh, I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
I wish I had that confidence.
There was this, and then there's this series of questions that the counselor asks, and it's not like she's saying, oh, okay, well, I'll do this, or she's very matter of fact in saying, okay, I have that. Mm-hmm. You need good grades. Oh, I have a 4.0. You need a 170 from 179 on the LSATs. Okay, I'll work on that. You need this. Oh, but I have all those. So she knows that she has the prerequisites. That's not a problem for her. It's the counselor looking at her and thinking that she wouldn't. But eventually the counselor, at the end of the conversation,
because her goal at this point isn't just getting into Harvard. Her goal at this point is winning back the man of her dreams.
Yeah, impressing Warner.
Yeah.
She wants him to.
So Harvard is just kind of the step before getting this man back.
I mean, because she doesn't look at things like that as obstacles. She doesn't look at getting into Harvard as an obstacle.
Which is it's so real if you, like, I think about past experiences where, you're trying to win someone's affections and you feel like, oh, yeah, this will be simple.
We cut from this counselor to her video application department, which is mostly her floating around a pool in a floaty. But she uses she's giving examples as to why she would be good in Harvard.
Like she can remember all these facts, and she starts talking about days of our lives.
She says I can remember small details from day to day. And her friend asks her what happened on Days of Our Lives last night, and she just spouts off this whole ridiculous storyline.
And so, yeah, it's just like a montage of her studying, and at first, I think
it's cutting back and forth.
On her practice test, she gets a 140.
Yeah, it cuts back and forth between the video application and her studying for the LSATs.
And she's missing out on all these social interactions.
Right. You see the parties going on outside. She sees the parties going on outside. Our other sorority girlfriend, who doesn't get very many lines, but later on is a star of the TV show Charmed.
Which girl?
The brunette. The little brunette that's helping her study for the LSATs. Later on became the star of Charmed.
Huh.
Yeah.
I never really watched that show.
I did.
Yeah, of course.
Well, because I watched it because I was still riding the Buffy wave.
Yeah.
When Buffy ended, I was still on the Buffy wave, and I didn't want to watch Angel because that looked stupid. Nobody likes Cordelia. Nobody. If you watched Buffy and you were a fan of Cordelia, you didn't watch Buffy correctly. But Cordelia was the star of Angel, and I was like, no, I'm good on that. And so I started watching Charmed because I thought that would be kind of for the first couple seasons it was alright. Had Rose McGowan.
Yes.
And she's dark. And then Rose McGowan, the first couple seasons didn't have Rose McGowan.
It had Shannon Doherty.
She's crazy. Yeah. She's a crazy person. And then Shannon Doherty and her creepy eye got kicked off because she was a crazy person, and then they got Rose McGowan. Who's also a crazy person.
Oh no.
Her video application technically meets these requirements. We see that inside of this admissions meeting, and her video application technically meets all the requirements.
And she needed at least a 175 on the LSATs, and you find out she got a 179.
Yeah, which is, I don't know if any of you have ever taken anything like the LSATs, but a 179 on the LSATs is an almost impossible number. Like, you would have to be spot on, because some of the questions are contextual. So you can be graded objectively by whoever's graded. Your answer can be graded objectively on some of the essay portions. So getting a 179 is hard. You have to meet objective requirements by somebody who's grading an essay question, and that's a whole lot harder than a true-false multiple choice question.
Oh yeah, and my favorite part of her video is her when she's like, I feel comfortable using legal jargon in everyday life, and this guy comes up and whistles at her, and she's like, I object.
Yes.
Like, that's that's so funny. It's good writing
legitimately there. Good comedy.
Yeah, it's such a witty script.
she passes with an obscenely high score, and then our admission council. One of the guys on this admissions panel is now one of the, not just reoccurring, but one of the every single sketch actors on Drunk History. And I don't remember his name, but he is in every single Drunk History sketch. If you watch Drunk History, there's Derek Waters, who is the host of the show, and then there's this other guy who's in every single sketch, and he is on this admissions board. They accept her due to diversity reasons, because Harvard has no other fashion majors. So they're under the impression that fashion law is a thing, and it is in real life, it has to be. And so they kind of let her in just to see if a fashion major can make it at Harvard.
So she is on this path initially for all the wrong reasons, but she's really got it. She's intelligent, she's hardworking,
which we see.
She's kind.
Which we see, and this is probably something that a lot of people didn't even think about. But she gets to Harvard. And we noticed something.
Yes.
We noticed something that a lot of people probably wouldn't have even noticed.
So we're getting all these overhead shots of the city of, is it Boston, Massachusetts? All these overhead shots of Elle driving, and then that's when we were like, wait a minute, did she drive
to Harvard?
All the way to Massachusetts from California?
We found the mileage on that.
Yeah.
We found the mileage on that.
It was that would be a 44-hour drive.
44-hour drive, 3,449 miles.
That is determination.
Yeah. And it's her in her, I saw it, and I know we have one friend who will appreciate this. I saw the car and immediately knew that it was a Porsche Carrera 1911, or 911. And she drove, which means she drove a Porsche Carrera all the way across the country. That is not a comfortable drive, first off. But
yeah, so we get to the Harvard campus, and this kind of goes back to what her parents had said about law students being boring and ugly.
Any self-presentation.
There is drab clothing. It's gloomy looking.
But
there's no blonde hair.
Even the filter of even the kind of color palette that the director is using. There's blues, dark blues, and browns, and dark tans. There's no bright colors. There's not even any sunshine in this.
No, we also noticed a change in the music. It's not a poppy song or anything.
Now.
Yeah.
It's an orchestral score now. But she has not changed.
No.
She's wearing a very stylish, what would be stylish at the time, 2001 outfit. It's all pink.
Everyone's staring at her. Some people are laughing.
Yes, there's lots of laughing.
Some guys are like, "Where's the beach, honey?"
Yeah. It's
just instant mockery.
Yeah, because she's different. She's not like them. They automatically look at her as less than, which is a philosophical change in social environment, self-image, which most of the time people who find themselves in a different social environment try to adapt their self-image. That's the general philosophy behind how humans work. She does not. She is 100% completely herself. She, especially, well, in this scene she is. We see her try to do that at points throughout the movie. But right now, she doesn't even know there's a difference. She's like completely ignoring that there is a difference in social environment.
And she's carrying Bruiser in, and she's like, "Oh, Bruiser, everyone will love you." And I feel like that's how she looks at herself too.
She's telling Bruiser, "Don't worry, don't be worried about it. Everybody's gonna love you," and that's what she's thinking about herself.
Because she says that during the breakup scene, she was like, why wouldn't your parents like me?
Right.
Everyone likes me.
Right.
She knows she's a good person, and she doesn't understand why people wouldn't like her.
Well, it's because the person she isn't tied to what she looks like. It's
Mhm.
tied to what the kind of person she is.
Mhm.
It's got nothing to do with her exterior image whatsoever. She goes to the college square, which at bigger colleges, on the first couple days after the orientation, there's in the square you got your fraternities, your social clubs, your extracurriculars, and then direction people where you sign in on your first day. She signs in with this guy, and she asks if Warner's there yet. And I forget the line.
Well, she's asking like where the social calendar
Oh, she asked for the social
too.
calendar. That's what it is. Yeah, she asked for the social calendar, and he tells her in no one that it's not a cruise ship.
Mhm.
She tells her to go ask the captain or something like that.
Yeah, directly to her face, and she's just like, "What?" Like she
why
doesn't.
would you even?
Yeah.
She doesn't understand why he would say that.
Yeah.
Which just shows the cultural difference between colleges in California and colleges in
Mhm.
New England. Colleges in California probably do hand out a social calendar, a point of interest, and in more Western schools would probably be socialization
Mhm.
between the students. At Harvard, they don't care about that. It's all about now we're in an empirical world run by numbers and correctness. After this, we see her. I don't know if it's a class or a thing, but they're sitting in the grass and
It's like a little social circle.
because there's a moderator. He looks like he works for the school,
Mhm.
like moderating this get together. And these characters, who are all except for one of these people, all these people are important to the story later on.
Mhm.
The first person we meet is this character, David Kidney.
At first, I want to mention Elle is head to toe in pink, and she's even sitting on a pink blanket.
Yes.
And everyone else is just like dark, drab clothing.
She has a pink collapsible water cup that Bruiser's drinking out of. The first character we meet is this awkward gentleman. His name's David Kidney.
Mm-hmm.
And he... let me see.
He always looks super uncomfortable.
In every situation. Like, he's always, like, his head is always backing up from people.
Mm-hmm.
He's a
you
Russian
might see, yeah, he seems like someone that would also be teased, but in this situation with Al being there, he's not as outright ostracized as she is.
He says
because
he's a Russian
she's so
lit
different.
major.
Yeah.
Which, anybody's gonna... It's a Russian lit major. This is our first instance of male involvement in our first symbol. He is a representation of the male neutral when it comes to male involvement in later empowerment stages of feminism. The male neutral being a male who, not taking sides, not saying that he is a quote-unquote supporter of feminist ideologies, but not having anything against them. If they were to look at empirical, because the male neutral only would look at empirical facts, statistics, real numbers, solid ideas. In the end, there is no way that could not help feminist ideologies. The idea is that the progression of feminist ideologies is based on facts. Women are just as good as workers. There's no way to prove that they're not empirically. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Women should have the same rights as men. There's no way to prove the negative of that empirically. So if the male neutral is just looking at numbers and statistics and the baseline reality of it, there's no way that in the long run doesn't help late wave feminism. That's what this guy represents, and we see it a couple times over the course of the movie. he's also very awkward. He's scared to talk. We see that he's scared to talk to women.
Mm-hmm.
On multiple occasions. I think he only talks to her. No, he has no lines. One line directly to Elle. Because later on in the movie he tells her thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only line. But they share probably 5 scenes together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we are also introduced to Enid.
Enid, okay.
Scene.
She's another thematic character who represents old wave feminism, which would be anywhere from the suffragettes to the late 70s styles of feminism. She instantly comes out and says that she's gay, that she's a lesbian, and I forget that she has a ridiculous, like, she's the president of a group called Lesbians Against Drunk Driving or something. Early wave feminism looks down on later waves because later waves of feminism have this thing called empowerment feminism, where the way I was taught, you and I both had one particular philosophy professor in college,
Mm-hmm.
who is one of the most intelligent men I've ever met in my life. If Kirk Wolf ever hears this show, I would be embarrassed because he'd pick it apart to me. But the example he used was adult film stars. In early wave feminism, adult film stars would be told that they are hurting women's progress when it comes to feminism because men are exploiting their bodies and they're complicit. In later wave feminisms, if an adult film star feels that what they're doing is empowering themselves as a woman, they're furthering themselves and they're taking their power back through what they're doing. Later wave feminism, the early 90s to the early 2000s would be third wave feminism, says that if they feel empowered and they're creating social power for themselves doing it, there's honestly nothing wrong with it as long as they help the cause overall. So she is looking down on Elle right away. She actually kind of addresses her whole introduction to herself at Elle. Like, she's kind of doing it with this snarky...
Mm-hmm.
Most people, when you say the word feminism, most people automatically think of those early waves of feminism. Bra burning, down with men, we can do it ourselves, angry feminist.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not the truth.
Anti-male.
Right. It's not the truth. It's not the reality of what feminism is. It's a stereotype that's been perpetuated, and this character is representing that almost purposefully to show how different the stereotype and the reality of feminism are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 big bomb drops, right? I think I'm done with.
I just thought of if you want to watch a great movie, Hulu has the documentary on Dr. Ruth.
Ask Dr. Ruth.
Yeah, and she doesn't. There's a scene where she's with her daughter and granddaughter, and she's like, "No, I don't want to be classified as a feminist," but she is one.
She's a feminist icon, actually.
Yeah, she just doesn't want that radical label.
And she even tells her daughter and her granddaughter, "No, I don't want people to see me as a feminist."
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple questions, her granddaughter and her daughter ask her these couple questions,
Mm-hmm.
and she agrees with them, and
Yeah.
well, then you're a feminist. Like, it doesn't mean that you have, and she says that it's okay, we are feminists too.
She's like, okay, but I just don't want to see you
don't go burning your bra. Yeah. Enid's a women's studies major with a minor in combat, and she punches David, which is another really funny scene because he's like, ow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this aggressive character. She's very aggressive in her, and you can tell that she will be a character later on that will get in someone's face.
Is she in the sequel?
I honestly saw the marketing for the sequel and then
Oh.
was determined that I would never watch
Oh,
it.
you've never
It
seen
would
it.
ruin this movie for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
I feel like you make a sequel to a movie with this much consistency and done as correctly as it is, diminishing returns. I don't want this movie. I don't want my ideal of this movie to be tainted at all by another movie that's supposed to be related.
Yeah.
And is Reese Witherspoon in the second one?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. Just making sure. On her first day of class, we see her in her room, in her dorm room, and she's attempting to look the part.
She even has Bruiser wearing a tie.
Shoot, we skipped this other kid who is of no consequence. It's literally the only line this character has in this entire... Like, you see him in the background of other scenes, but he says that he's the greatest thing ever. He's more intelligent than anybody. And Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time was based on a 4th grade science project. Every time I see, like, there's some movies that you know where the comedy's coming up, so you're like, but in this one, you know where the comedy's coming up, and you still wait for the line, and it still makes you laugh. It is very good. Okay, back to her first day of class. She's in her room, and she's attempting to, quote-unquote, look the part. She looks at Bruiser and says, I think I look the part.
So she's like, we totally look the part.
Yeah. Which, kind of, another theme that a lot of people wouldn't even think twice about is that there's no voiceover, there's no internal dialogue here. I feel like her interactions with Bruiser the Chihuahua are her inner monologue. It's meant for us to get a look at what's going on in her head.
Yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it because there aren't any voiceovers or anything like that whatsoever.
No, and there's
like you think of the movie Clueless where she's kind of narrating it throughout. Right. There's nothing like that.
And there's
here.
a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of exposition. There's nobody sitting there explaining something for any amount of time. Exactly. And so we learn a lot about the characters by what's going on in their heads, and there's at no point something where somebody's thinking and then there's a bad ADR voiceover. This is all, it's a good excuse to understand what Elle's thinking, only she's talking to her Chihuahua, which makes a lot of sense.
I talk to Elvis.
I talk to Elvis
Makes
constantly.
Sense to me.
When you're not here, Elvis and I have full-blown conversations. And he is not a good conversationalist.
No.
He's actually really grumpy.
I mean, we don't even know how good of a listener he actually is.
He doesn't care.
No.
No. You say, come here, and he says, no. She has her first encounter at Harvard with Warner at this point. Walking down the hallway. He sees she sees him, and then you see her kind of do a little once over and then decide to pretend to not see him. He gets her attention. They're having this conversation, and this is where we get that trailer line. Oh, what are you doing at Harvard? And she was like, I go here. And he was, what do you mean you go here? Oh, I'm a law student. And he asks her almost sarcastically, you go to Harvard? And this is where we get the trailer line. What? Like it's hard?
Yeah, which shows for him, she's a student there, and he's still not taking her seriously.
He doesn't believe that she's a student there at this point. The only thing I want to call this movie out for is they really have every class together. Like, because this first class, I guess it is first year. Like, class-wise, we only see first year. But every class we see they have together. This teacher coming up that we talk about, they have that class together. And then both teachers that we meet, they have that class together. And it's like, he doesn't believe she got in. This is where we meet Professor Stromwell, played by Holland Taylor, which, if you don't know who Holland Taylor is, she would have been the grandma on 2.5 Men for the entire run of the show.
She was also, I think she's been on some law TV shows as well. She won an Emmy for, I don't remember the show.
90s?
90s, early millennium, maybe.
Law show?
I think so, yeah.
I guarantee you she's had, I 100% guarantee she's had like a one episode spot on a Law and Order. One of the Law and Order.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Definitely.
There's no way she hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But what we know her from, and it's hilarious, is that if you, the listener, are a fan of American Horror Story, then you're most likely a fan of Sarah Paulson, who has been the star of all but one season of American Horror Story.
I think so, yeah.
And, well, she's kind of a side character in Roanoke, but still.
Sarah Paulson?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she's just a British lady who's kind of...
No, but she portrays Lily Rabe on
well,
TV
I was just thinking of
portion.
Lily Rabe being more of the star because...
yeah.
So this Holland Taylor here is Sarah Paulson's life partner.
Mm-hmm.
They've been together for like 13 years.
I don't think it's been that long because I remember kind of the uproar when it was announced because of the age difference between them.
I believe there's somewhere in the number
There's
of
probably
25
like 30
years.
years, I think.
Sarah Paulson is considerably... I think she's about our age. She can't be any older than us.
I think she might be in her 40s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was closer to our age.
No.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna Google this.
My phone died, and then we were like, "Oh, let's go record." And like as we went to go record, there's my phone. Oh, I'm about to die. Gone.
No, I'm pretty sure she's older because she's been around forever. She just didn't really get, famous until American Horror Story.
Okay.
So she's been with Holland Taylor since 2015.
4 years.
She is 44.
Oh. We get to Professor Stromwell's class, and the line that she gives from Aristotle is, "Law is reason free from passion," which becomes a reoccurring theme over the course of the movie. We come across this indirectly a couple times, and she asks if anybody knows who said it, and David raises his hand, being a Russian lit major, and says, Aristotle. And she goes, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." She asks if he would bet his life on it, and he's like, "Sure." And then she walks up to another student and taps his head with a pencil. She's like, "Would you bet his life on it?" And now David's like, wait, there's like consequences to this?
Doubt in him, kind of.
And we find out that he was right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the idea that you have to be confident in the fact that you're correct.
Because law leaves very little room for self-doubt.
Yes.
And we also see that Elle is in the front row. She's the only student in the class without a computer.
She's writing on a heart-shaped notebook with a fluffy top pen. Elle didn't do the first day's reading. She didn't know that there was reading for the very first day. And she gets embarrassed. This is also where we meet Vivian.
Yes. Selma
Blair's Vivian, who the year before this movie came out, she won Best Kiss at the MTV Awards for that kiss in Cruel Intentions, which, going back and looking at it now, is disgusting.
Yes. I remember the spoof of it in...
Scary Movie.
Was it Scary Movie?
It was definitely Scary Movie, where like the line of saliva is like a foot long in that. The parody, where like they keep backing up from each other, but they're still connected by...
There are like so many parody movies at that time. There was that and like Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, it might have been Not Another Teen Movie.
I get all of them mixed up.
Starring
Chris Evans.
future Captain America, Chris Evans. So Vivian here is another feminist thematic character themed around feminism here. Vivian represents the female neutral, which, unlike the male neutral, the female neutral is detrimental to the ideals of feminism.
She instantly seems to dislike
automatically
Elle.
Dislikes Elle. Kind of throws her under the bus. Stromwell asks Vivian if she knew that there was reading for the first day. She says yes. And then she asks her if Elle should be thrown out of class for not knowing there was reading for the first day. And she says yes. So Elle gets thrown out of class on this very first day because Vivian is trying to make herself look good. Mm-hmm. The female neutral is a woman who would focus on self-progression, despite or at least or despite cost to other women. So instead of building up women as a whole, they're looking for their own self-progression, even if it costs other women theirs. That would be the female neutral when it comes to the interaction. And Vivian does not care whether or not Elle does good. She doesn't care whether or not anybody does good, but herself. Kind of even Warner. We see her kind of throw Warner under the bus at some points through this movie, too. She gets kicked out of class. She ends up in another commons area, another square.
She's like sitting outside.
Bummed.
Yeah.
Head down. And
this is where we are introduced to Emmett. Played by Luke Wilson.
The better of the two Wilsons. If you know acting wise the two Wilson brothers, you will agree Luke is the better actor. Owen might be the more famous, but I think that's just because he's the quirkier. Luke fundamentally is a better actor. They're talking about what happened, and he starts giving her pointers. If you have Callahan do this, speak up. He likes people that speak up. If you have Stromwell, make sure you've read however many chapters ahead. He's giving her all these pointers. Emmett represents another theme of feminism. He does.
Which one?
He represents the male positive.
Yeah, so we noticed that he doesn't seem taken aback by her appearance. He's not,
he looks at her and
mocking her. He's giving her tips without judging her or questioning.
Right. Well, why did you get kicked out of class? No.
Yeah.
Here's how to succeed in these areas of difficulty. Mm-hmm. And not, well, you have to do this. He's not telling her how she has to go about it. He's just giving her pointers on how to be successful. The male positive, he gives her the tools for her own self-progression. He gives her the ideas of how to do it correctly, and then it's left up to her to do it. The positive male would help without consideration for self at any point. So he's giving these tips to this person he doesn't even know. No names are exchanged here. They just start talking. It's just two outgoing people talking in the square. And he goes, oh, well, if you have Callahan, speak up. He likes people who are opinionated. If you have Stromwell, do this. Make sure to always... And there's no, pre-context to the fact that these two people... That he's even a character in the movie at this point. He's just a guy she's talking to.
Yeah. And then there's just this really sweet moment where... She's like, wow, I'm really glad I met you. And he's just that's where he's kind of taken aback.
Yes. After this conversation. Oh, wait, no. Is this where we run into Vivian and Warner in the square here?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have
no, he's not with Vivian yet. He just sees her and
they're talking.
Kind of pulls her away from Emmett.
Yes. They're talking. He makes slight passes at her still.
Yeah, it's really weird.
He's creepy.
He's still showing kind of an interest, and then this is when Vivian shows up, and Elle is like, "Oh, you know her?"
Yeah, and we find out that they are, since the breakup, engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian and Warner. And she has this giant, ridiculous ring on. She's wearing the diamond from Batman and Robin on her hand in this movie.
And we see Elle just trying to keep it together.
But she's still keeping a smile on her face, but Reese Witherspoon does a really good job of showing that it's a strained smile.
Yeah.
This conversation ends awkwardly, and we end up in Professor Callahan's office.
Wait, no, then she's driving off angrily.
Oh, yeah.
She's having another breakdown, and she sees a nail salon, and she just turns around speeding and goes into the parking space.
All the notes for this. I didn't take a single note.
Because I thought this was hilarious. She's doing like the whimpering again, and then she sees the nail salon. She's like,
slams on her brakes.
Yeah.
But I didn't get this actress's name
so,
because she plays the same character always.
We are introduced to Paulette. Played by Jennifer Coolidge, and most everyone knows Jennifer Coolidge as
Stifler's mom.
But she's also a regular in Christopher Guest films.
Guest.
He's married to Jamie Lee Curtis. He wrote This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh!
She's in Best in Show.
She is in Best in Show. That's probably the one movie that I'll respect her acting for. Because it seems like you get American Pie, and you get this, and you get, that god-awful sitcom, The Two Broke Girls.
Yeah.
And she's always just playing the same character.
Mm-hmm.
Best in Show, she's actually playing an intelligent character who knows about dogs, and she generally just wants to win. And I think that's the only time I've ever been like, oh yeah, she's really good in that. And she's really good in this, but this is the beginning of her playing that same character over and over.
Mm-hmm. So Elle is having a breakdown, and they're bonding, and Paulette is like, well, if a girl like you can't hold on to a man, then there sure as hell isn't hope for the rest of us.
Right. She's kind of playing a trailer trash lady. She's not very...
She doesn't have a lot of confidence.
Not very sophisticated taste-wise.
No.
Lots of denim.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of curled bangs.
We see the UPS man.
The UPS guy
that
who
she
never
has
gets
a crush on.
Yeah, and he always... Instead of hitting on her, he always just uses some double entendre. Hey, I got a package for you.
Which is funny that they do that with this male character, because it's been done so many times with female characters and other like male-driven comedies where he's objectified the whole time and he's not given a name.
Right. Hey, the I got a package for you line, and Elle looks at her and is like, hey, he's got a package for you.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that before this, we find out that Paulette recently got out of a 10-year relationship. She was broken up with, kicked out of her house, etc.
And she lost custody of the dog.
Of her dog, yes.
Yeah.
He kept the dog.
So they're talking about Elle's situation, and Paulette is encouraging Elle to steal him back from Vivian. So this kind of gives Elle the fire.
Reinvigorates.
To get back in there and try a little bit harder.
This is where we end up in Callahan's office. I took literally no notes from that.
So we're introduced to Professor Callahan, played by Victor Garber.
Which, if you are kind of a pop culture nut like us, I think the only... he's been in tons of things, so you'll recognize him. Mm-hmm. But the only big thing he'd ever been in up to this point was Alias.
Well, I mean, he was in, the First Wives Club. He's been in a ton of stuff.
See,
Alias was probably...
You keep saying it like I've seen that movie. But he was in the First Wives Club. Okay. He is a good actor. He I mean, he's always solid in everything he's in. Don't get me wrong. He's just never had that big shot. I guess he was in Sicario. I haven't seen either of those, but he represents the male negative. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
That's not a for right now.
So we learn that he has an internship
students
with limited
in his class.
spots.
Yes, students in his class will be competing for an internship at his firm under him.
Where they would be working alongside him on real cases.
Right, they'd be co-counsel. Elle. Oh, there's this he asks a question. And I forget the actual legal jargon here, but would you choose this or this? And Elle answers incorrectly to most people, and then he asks Vivian, and she says that she would rather take one because it would be a civil infraction and there would be no major violent or criminal charges. And the other one would be defense of a violent or criminal nature. And Elle, who kind of gets angry because after answering this, Vivian takes her beringed hand and puts it on Warner's shoulder, raises her hand again, and says that, you know what, she was right. She's going to keep that answer because she's not scared of a challenge.
Yeah.
To which Vivian scoffs.
Yeah, they kind of have this minor competitive streak that is beginning, and they're trying to upstage one another. And then this is kind of an upsetting scene, the study groups.
Oh, yeah.
Where Elle shows up with
a
snacks.
Giant bag of, I swear to God, delicious looking muffins. Like, a lot of people don't really... Food is kind of a thing in movies where people refer to a food, and then like, in movies somebody could be holding a sponge and be talking about this delicious food they're eating, and the audience would never really notice because they don't pay attention to the food. I pay attention to the food, and I'll tell you what, these muffins look delicious.
So she wants to join one of the groups, but she's getting rejected.
She wants to join Warner's study group.
Yeah.
And the line is that it's full. And
but then
it's full again.
Warner's still, I don't know, he's kind of weird about it.
He's like,
maybe we can make some room.
He's trying to convince the rest of the group to make some room for her. And she goes...
Because he's still acting like he's attracted to her.
Right.
Still, definitely.
And she says, well, is it something, I forget the line she gives, but one of the other girls at the table says, no, it's a smart people thing. Which is kind of an upsetting line because you're all in fucking Harvard.
Which, yeah, and if you think about it, some of these characters, I'm sure, were probably made fun of in school and stuff, and now they're in this environment
where
they can do the teasing and stuff.
And it's not fair to her.
No.
Because she genuinely just... the line she opens with in this scene is, hey, can I come to your study group? I've required sustenance. And then she's made fun of for not being smart enough.
It's like they're treating her like she's the person who maybe made fun of them in school and stuff like that, and that's not the case. They're projecting onto her.
Oh, definitely. She walks by the other study group also in the library and kind of shows interest in sitting with them.
And then Enid.
She's told that she can't.
She's like, hey, maybe if you, go to a sorority, you could get in,
Yeah, she gives her a hard time, which there is hardly ever any speech from that from Elle. So it's an obvious preconceived notion on Enid's part.
And so...
The line is, if you'd have come to a rush party at my sorority, at least I'd have been nice to you.
Yeah.
And Enid responds with another absolutely vicious lie where she says, oh, so why? So you can reject me at the end of the night and then call me a dyke behind my back. And she says, I would never use that word. you might have overheard Vivian.
Yeah.
And that's how she leaves. She has this very sharp-tongued way of returning this to people.
Yes.
She didn't do it at Warner Study Group because she genuinely wants those people to like her. But this whole Enid kind of calling her out of the blue just because she looks the way she looks, she acts the way she acts.
It's like the saleswoman that was trying to sell her the dress. Like, Enid is coming directly at her, and she needs to show her, like, I am not that person that you think I am. So she goes back to the dorm room alone.
When she calls the sorority, she's literally blue.
Yeah.
The whole scenery in this shot is blue.
Yeah.
Because she is...
she's sad. She's wearing a blue robe.
The wall behind her is blue. She calls the sorority again, and her one friend that doesn't really get a name, the blonde one of the two, says that she got engaged and she's picking out her wedding dress. Isn't this the scene? Do I have the wrong scene?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
No, this is it.
I was like, wait, how far wrong am I right now? But this bums Elle out a little more, but she's still supportive.
Yeah.
She's still super happy for it. Her other friend takes the phone and goes, guess what? I have news too. I got bangs. Which, it might not be your kind of comedy, but it's still pretty damn funny.
I mean, bangs can be a big commitment. It's a big change.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of that kind of campy humor, so this just really appealed to me.
She overhears, after this phone call, she overhears people talking in the hallway.
It's Vivian.
She overhears the word party. And she's like, wait, what? Someone's throwing a party. She goes out in the hallway. We find out it's Vivian. And you're not smart enough, girl. And she invites her to the party. Tells her the address and everything. Almost nice enough.
Costume party.
Tells her it's a costume party. Make sure you wear a costume. It's not a costume party.
No.
No.
It's kind of like that scene in Mean Girls where Lindsay Lohan showed up in a witch costume.
I'm pretty sure
that took that from this.
Right, like that.
Because Mean Girls was what, like 2004?
I thought it was,
or was it later?
2006.
I don't remember.
But definitely kind of a homaged scene to this though. But this is an awesome scene, which she gets to this party. She's the only one in a costume. It's almost a pink Playboy bunny looking costume.
Yep.
She realizes that she's the only one in costume, and she does not leave.
No.
No.
Instead, her first thought is to confront Vivian.
She does. Thanks. Great party. Like, she walks right up to her. Awesome party, Vivian.
And Vivian spits out her drink.
Right, they're laughing at her. She says, nice outfit. And after nice outfit is another one of these great lines. And it's just as much Reese Witherspoon's delivery as it is the line of the writing itself. But I like your outfit too, but when I dress like a frigid bitch, I try not to look as constipated.
And then she walks away.
Shit.
And you can tell it really gets to Vivian, but then her friend is like, but you're the one with the ring.
Yeah. Like they're fighting over
because she's like, she's horrible.
Yeah, after all this, she calls Elle horrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I like that Elle is just kind of, laughing at herself about it. She's not embarrassed to be in the costume.
We overhear this conversation Enid's having with Warner in this scene where she's it's not really like a scene in the movie. It's just a background conversation, but it's obviously meant for us to hear, where she takes offense to the word semester. Because it refers... Hold on. It refers too much to the male form of the word semen. So she's protesting the school that the next one should be known as the Ovester. Man, If that's not funny to you,
I know.
Um,
I wonder how many people's heads that went over
Right.
when they first saw that.
like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But the word, if you watch this movie before listening to us and you're still not getting this joke, the word semen is in semester. And if you slightly change it to the female form of ovum, it would be called an ovester.
Ay, ay.
Oh my god. It's still funny when I explain it. Warner sees her in this Playboy Bunny costume.
And Enid just kind of rolls her eyes and walks
he
away.
gets some looking at Chinese food eyes.
Yeah, she's getting really close to him. He's not trying to push her away or anything.
Right.
Despite being
he pulls
engaged.
her in. He has his hand on her hip.
Yeah.
He calls her Pooh Bear again in the scene, I believe. Which in the beginning he calls her Pooh Bear a few times.
And then he calls Vivian Pooh Bear in front of her.
He calls her Pooh Bear again right here.
Mm-hmm.
Which just shows that he doesn't give a single shit.
No.
And
then this is a huge turning point in the movie
this
because
is the pivot.
He blatantly tells Elle, honey, you're not smart enough.
You're not smart enough.
Which throwing the honey in there is pretty condescending.
Right, which also, this is the turning point is what Elle says, where she gives this, what do you mean, we both go to the same school?
Yeah, because she's talking about getting into Callahan's internship.
Right.
And then that's when he's like, oh, honey, you're not
You're not
smart enough.
Again, Reese Witherspoon's acting right here. What do you mean I'm not smart enough? We're both in the same school. We're both in the same classes. And this is where we get the pivot point of the film, the pivot line of the film, where it's kind of a stand up and clap line. I'm never going to be good enough for you, am I?
Mm-hmm.
Which, ironically enough, our dear audience, we're going to have to cut this episode off at. Uh-oh, cliffhanger.
Oh.
How's the rest of this movie go?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Part B of Legally Blonde, coming soon. We'd like to thank you for listening. Make sure to rate, review, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever the platform you're finding us, following us on. Listen to our past episodes. Our supersized first episode, Drive, which we got really into. And then our two, Part A and Part B of Get Out, which hurt our brains.
We're also looking for more ideas and more movies to do. So if you have any suggestions or if you want to come guest on the podcast, let us know.
There's another podcast in the area guys, which also give a listen to if you listen to a lot of podcasts. We'd like to give a little shout out to the Matty Ice and Marky Mark podcast, who we follow pretty intensely. They're good. They're hilarious. They're not of the same ilk as us in the sense that we focus on a movie and then we break down thematic themes. They find social media topics. They talk about current events.
And video games.
Wrestling.
They're very entertaining.
They are hilarious guys. I've actually known them both for a really long time. Give them a listen if you have a chance. Thank you for listening. Anything else? Rating?
No.
Reviewing? Shout out to us. If you see us in the street, give us a high five. North Carolina, go on and raise up. No? Okay. Thank you for listening, and
thank you.
Adopt, don't shop.